On Friday, I apologize for some remarks that I made and others made, but particularly ones that I made on this program to the women's basketball team at Rutgers University. And it was a straightforward apology that Charles and I wrote, and I didn't I didn't think it was necessary to offer any excuse. No, I don't think there is now. I didn't think there was any need for me to put into any sort of context what happens on this program, because I unwisely just assumed that everybody knows, and obviously they don't. And I didn't think it was important to talk about what I do with my life, what my wife does with her life, and who I am, because I thought it was important that I apologize to these young women and to that coach and to their parents and to you for what I said, and so that's what I did. And that was before any newspaper articles. That was the first opportunity that I had, and I may discuss that with, well, it depends on what Reverend Sharpton asks, but I'm going to appear on Reverend Al Sharpton's radio program this afternoon. It's not, I'm not sure what time. It's not broadcast in New York, but it's broadcast all over the country, and y'all can hear it at Sharpton Talk, SHARPTON, SharptonTalk.net on the computer deal. So I apologized on Friday, and then there was a barrage, as you perhaps know, of newspaper articles over the weekend, and some this morning, and a number of prominent people calling for me to be fired, and so on. And so I have a responsibility this morning to provide some context and proportionality to who I am or what I do. And I don't want anybody to think that this, that I'm trying to weasel out of these remarks, or that this is some kind of excuse, because there isn't any excuse for what I said. And I'm not inclined to try to weasel out of these comments, which is why when I reached out to Reverend Sharpton and he invited me on his program, I'm grateful that he's allowing me to come talk to him and his audience. So he's still calling for me to be fired, and that's his right, but at least he's going to let me talk to him. So these young women at Rutgers, they don't know who I am. I mean, they picked the paper up and they don't know. They don't know whether I'm some right-wing racist nut, whether I was angry, whether it was some kind of diatribe, whether I was drunk. They don't know whether I just came on the radio and said, hey, the young women of Rutgers are yada yada. So let me provide a context briefly for them, not as an excuse. Not that it makes this okay. Nothing makes this okay. But there's a difference between premeditated murder and an accidental, the gun going off accidentally. I mean, somebody still gets shot, but the charges are dramatically different. This program has been for 30 or 35 years a program that makes fun of everybody. It makes fun of me, and it makes fun of everybody on the planet. And sometimes it makes fun of me to a vicious standpoint. Does that mean I get to say something about the Rutgers women? Of course not. But that's the context in which we operate here. Is it appropriate? Well, we'll talk about that a little later, because that's got to change, some of that, because some people don't deserve to be made fun of, like these young women who played for the national championship in basketball. They played for the national championship. They beat Duke. And then they played Tennessee in the national championship. They don't need me to try to be funny about them. But they don't know that I was trying to be funny. They don't know what this program is about. I mean, because I call my wife the green hoe, does that mean I can call? No, of course not. I mean, that's a repugnant suggestion to suggest that I think because we make fun of everybody, or because I get made fun of, that it's okay to make fun of them, because it's not okay to make fun of them. But that's what we do, and that's the context. So I want these, and I've reached out. I talked to Reverend DeForest Soares last night for 45 minutes. I had a great conversation with him. He's calling for me to be fired, but he's a decent, brilliant man and a great evangelist. And he said, I believe you. And he said, you know, we don't need a come to Jesus situation here. He said, he said, you know what the enigma of this is, the tragedy is, he said that I believe you, that you're a good man. He said, and you said this. You said this. What are they saying? Well, he's named a couple of people that I won't name, but what are the people over there on the right saying? And he said, you know, at the core of every black person, And so you have to understand this. They believe that white people don't like them. And they believe that no matter how good a white person is, that at some point it comes out, like it came out with you. And that just confirms what they think. And if you'll say this, what will they say? And so I want these, I've asked the Reverend DeForest to see if these young women will allow me to come apologize to them and their families and their coach, and he said he would work on that. And 10:30 Saturday night, I talked to Bob McKay, who was the athletic director. He's a lovely guy. I talked to Harold Ford all weekend. And I talked to Phil Griffin, God bless him, actually reached out to Reverend Sharpton when I asked him to, and arranged and told Reverend Sharpton that I wanted to talk with him, and so which is how that came about. These young women also need to know, not as an excuse, not after what I'm going to say now, do I expect these young women to say, oh, well, he works with black children, or he has black friends. That means he can say this. That's not what I'm saying. But they need to know that I'm a good person who said a bad thing. And there's a big difference. We have a ranch in New Mexico for kids with cancer and blood disorders and so on. And it opened, and we found it's been almost 10 years. And nearly half of the kids who come there are from minority groups. Native American, Hispanic, Asian American. An Asian American girl just won the Imus Ranch Rodeo this past spring. African American. 10% of the kids who come to our ranch are African American. I'm not a white man who doesn't know any African Americans. And my wife and I we run this ranch. We don't have counselors. The whole basis of this ranch is these parents from all over this country and all over the world, they send their children to this ranch because they know that my wife and I are going to be their parents for 10 days. They live in the house with us. They eat with us. They're with us 24 hours a day. There's not an African-American parent on the planet who has sent their child to the Imus Ranch who didn't trust me and trust my wife. And when these kids die, we don't just go to the white kid's funeral. Little Michael Morton, God bless him, he turned 17 years old on Christmas Day. He died January 1st. And my wife and I, of course, went to his funeral. It was a homegoing service down near Philadelphia. My wife is from Connecticut, never been to one of those. He knew that we loved him, and he'd been to the ranch twice. 2 years ago, he came to the ranch, and he desperately wanted to win that ranch belt buckle. And I knew he was terminal then. And I have the stopwatch, and I could have let him win easily. But he would have known that, and I would have known that. And so he was pissed, and he at me and everybody else because he didn't win. And he came back last year. And he tried with all his heart to win, and he didn't win again. And I could have let him win, but I wouldn't do that, and he wouldn't have wanted me to do that. And then he went home and he died on Christmas Day. And these kids come out there and with sickle cell anemia. So I know African American children, and I don't need a come to Jesus experience. And you might say,